here we have one of the biggest media organisations in the country, completely and utterly riven by scandal, completely and utterly hollowed out from within by the one man who seemed to have an awful lot of power over the organisation, Phillip Schofield. Just before we speak to Kevin O'Sullivan, have a look at what he said to the BBC.
You met someone who was a child, you were in a position of power over them, you used your power eventually to give them something they craved, which was a shot at a job in the media, you nurtured a relationship, and then that relationship became sexual. And they might ask, what's the difference between that and grooming?
Well, I would say that the initial list of things was not right anyway.
Tell me, why?
Because it was a totally innocent picture, a totally innocent Twitter follow, of which I follow 11,400 people, and then it was a completely innocent backwards and forwards over a period of time about a job, about careers. You know, I mean, you do that. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with talking to someone, no matter, you know, what age they are? Does that mean that if you're following anyone on Twitter that you absolutely don't talk to anybody else or you don't give advice? So I disagree with the summation that you just gave, because that does paint a very grave picture.
Who knew that Phillip Schofield was so willing to give advice to such young minds? Brilliant, isn't it? Let's talk to Kevin O'Sullivan. Kevin, incredible, this story. It just goes from day to day. It leaves you even more open-mouthed than you were the day before.
Absolutely. I mean, 2 heartbreak interviews by Phillip Schofield on a very human level. Of course, you feel a bit sorry for him if you extract his sins, because he has lost everything. He talked at the beginning of his BBC interview with, of course, Amor Rajan. Nobody else at the BBC does anything except for Amor Rajan. You know that, of course. That's the rule of the state broadcaster. So anyway, he told him that obviously he was close to suicide. His daughters have helped him through. So on that level, you know, sympathy for poor Mr. Schofield. But I do think he needs to go to the dictionary and look up the definition of grooming.
Yeah.
His contention on the front page of The Sun, I'm ashamed, I'm broken, but I am not a groomer. I did not groom that guy. He did. He did.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't understand what grooming is. For a rich and powerful television presenter to meet a guy, bring him into This Morning.
A teenager, let's face it.
Pay for his showroom, inveigle him into his glamorous life, going to the best clubs in London, the best restaurants, ferried by chauffeur-driven car to Philip's personal flat. You know, this is called grooming, Philip. You groomed that guy. You inveigled him into your world, and you had an affair. So on that basis, sympathy for everything that Phillip has lost, but do not tell us, Mr. Schofield, that you are not a groomer, because you are.
Well, he hasn't absolutely lost everything, because he made an awful lot of money in his career over several decades at ITV, so, I mean, he hasn't lost all of that. But he also still seems to be in contact, from what he tells us, with the man in question, and he seems to still be kind of exerting some kind of control over the situation, almost as though he says, oh, he doesn't wish to talk about it, I'm here to protect him. You know, it's almost as though he's speaking for him, and yet we still don't get at the truth. I mean, Piers Morgan's tweet this morning I thought was interesting, in which he said that if this guy does not come out and contradict anything that Phillip Schofield has said, effectively, what has Phillip Schofield done wrong? I disagree with Piers about that, but it's an interesting point.
Well, you know, I know Piers, but for all his tough exterior, you know, he's a very compassionate man, and I know what Piers is thinking. He's feeling very sorry for Phillip Schofield, and in some ways, so do I. But he's wrong when he says, well, if this guy doesn't contradict anything that Phillip Schofield says, there's nothing else to talk about. Well, there is. This ITV and Phillip Schofield were used as a way to groom this guy into a relationship with Phillip Schofield. It wasn't necessarily ITV's fault that it was used, but it was. You know, don't forget, he was ferried around in ITV taxis. Phillip Schofield and ITV paid for him to make a show reel in the This Morning studios.
Yeah.
You know, you can imagine, he was a young guy. I think he was only 19 when he was working at This Morning at first. You know, you can imagine how impressed he was by all of this. That's grooming. So all due respect to Piers, that is not the end of the story. And can I just say, Mike, you know, whilst I think this is a very important story, because ITV is a public company, it's a company that is responsible for the nation's favourite programmes. It beams our programmes into our living room. It makes celebrities, celebrity friends, if you like, of people like Phillip Schofield. It's a very important story at the heart of this nation. But I cannot, for the life of me, work out why the government thinks it's a good use of taxpayers' money for, in 2 weeks' time, there to be a special parliamentary inquiry into this morning. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I mean, you know, they might as well, because everybody else is doing it, so they figure they might as well join in the fun, right? I mean, that's why they're doing it. And quite frankly, if anything that makes Carolyn McCall feel uncomfortable, I think it's a good thing, because she's been lording it over a rather big, well-paid job at a huge media company for a long time. And all you have to do is go back to the Love Island scandals, to Caroline Flack, to Jeremy Kyle, to Piers Morgan, to Jeremy Clarkson, to all of the things that have happened at ITV under her watch, including the loss of shareholder value. I think they're entitled to ask those questions.
Yes, I mean, you could be forgiven for arguing that Dame Carolyn McCall, as chief executive of ITV, has been an unmitigated, ongoing disaster.
Yes.
But, you know, it's quite right that she and other ITV executives will appear before the Culture and Media Select Committee next Tuesday, in advance as they prepare for the Culture and Media Bill, the new bill. That's quite right. But they've created a new date for Carolyn and her chums the following Wednesday for a special inquiry into this morning. That is not a good use of taxpayers' money. I mean, it's going to be quite a spectacle. It's going to be great for journalists.
Yeah.
But what on earth is that doing in Westminster? You're quite right, Mike. The reason they're doing that is a bunch of obscure backbench MPs on the Culture and Media Select Committee have spotted a chance to get on telly, to make a few headlines. It's ridiculous.
No, I know. I mean, there's easier ways, I have to say. They could just come on our shows. But there we are. Look at this morning. I don't know if you spotted it earlier, but Alison Hammond.
Alison Hammond.
And the Oscar goes to... Let's have a look.
I was finding it really painful because obviously, you know, I loved Phillip Schofield, and it's weird because I still love Phillip Schofield. However, what he's done is wrong. He's admitted it, he's said sorry. But as a family, we're all really struggling to process everything. And I'd never know what to say, but I remember what my mum said. My mum always said, you know, use your Bible as your sat-nav in life, Al. And in the Bible it says, he without sin cast the first stone. And I just don't want to say anything bad because obviously I'm in conflict.
Of course. I think so many of us are.
I think so many of us are, particularly
there's a conflation here, Giles, isn't there, between, obviously, Sonia says what Phil's done is wrong, but at the same time...
It's a human story. It's a human story,
on all sides,
but with public implications.
I mean... I'm not sure where to begin.
Sorry, Mike, could you pass the sick bag, please?
Well, I mean, a couple of people have tweeted me saying perhaps it wasn't the best idea to use the Bible as the guide to what you do in life.
Your sat-nav.
Because the Bible also says quite a lot of other things which might not be so helpful to Mr. Schofield.
Yeah. I don't think Schofield's been using the Bible as his guide.
No, I'm not sure what he's been using.
But memo to Alison Hammond and everyone else who works at This Morning, can you please stop calling your Nest of Vipers programme
a family?
Family.
Yeah.
You're not a family. If you are a family, you are the most dysfunctional family in the history of families. These people are delusional about the situation they're in. Yeah. They're delusional about the programme they work on. They're delusional about this nasty industry they work in. Stop calling it a family. What do you think we are, idiots?
I know. Also, one of the real criticisms of Schofield and Holly Willoughby as well is the insincerity and the kind of absolute kind of cringe-making, you know, fake emotions that they've been showing for years and years and years and years, including the time when they weren't actually speaking to one another and pretending to be friends. I mean, it's all pretend. And I'm afraid everybody's seeing through it. And I'll tell you what else is happening to me now, is I'm looking at Giles Brandreth, who I used to think of as a kind of rather benign old geezer who's quite good fun to get on every now and again, sounds very posh, knows quite a lot of things, quite a talented guy. I'm starting to think to myself, what on earth is he doing? Sitting there with a stupid jumper on and a big smile on his face going, oh, I love working here, it's so nice, everybody's so nice to me. Shut up.
Yeah, back on the show today, rewarded for the nonsense spouted on Monday. What a happy place that is. He's now back saying it's a human story, but an important public story too. Yeah, great. I mean,
thanks,
you know,
anyway.
they're all lost in their own little world. And by the way, the top prize for the best bit of journalistic phraseology so far on this saga goes to Jan Muir in the Daily Mail this morning, who described Holly Willoughby as Saint Holly, the Mother Superior of the Blind Eye Convent.
Brilliant. Now, listen, I know you've got
a blind eye like everyone else.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Go on.
I've got an important point to make, Mike. In his BBC interview, right, Phillip Schofield said, and I quote, about this alleged ITV investigation, I was asked quite a bit. He was asked a couple of times. There was nothing formal.
Right.
Remember
that's all right then. Yeah, that's all right then.
So, in other words, no proper investigation.
Incredible. Yeah, incredible. Now, I know you've got another show to prepare for. You're up at 4 o'clock with Drive. You've got more shows, I presume, over the course of the weekend. We got Plank of the Week at 7, but I can't let you go without getting your view of the Biden slip-up. Let's have another look at it here. Joe Biden, the leader of the free world, at a naval engagement. He ends up staring at his own navel. Oh, down he goes. I mean, it's the comedy president, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's almost going to soon be only newsworthy when he turns up somewhere and doesn't fall down. So it's got the headline, Biden remains vertical throughout entire public appearance. You know, I mean, it's getting pathetic.
It really is.
And you're telling me America is poised to vote this guy back in? You have to be.
I mean, unbelievable. I don't see it, honestly. I mean, but surely to God, and I said this earlier to Richard Tice, if you're Jill Biden, his wife, or any member of his family, surely you'd say, come on, Joe, I really don't think it's a good idea for you to run again. You really, I mean, you can't even walk, never mind run. You know, don't do it.
It's a joke, but I think he will run again, and more fool the Democrats for letting him.
Yeah, absolutely right. Kevin O'Sullivan, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Back at 4 o'clock with the Drive Time show, of course.